Lascam Corla agus Boilum Boyas a goal Chignachakti for Honya and Chance Lorch Narakti Akshaw agus son Lassie Foster. I do welcome the contribution of my colleagues to this debate and acknowledge the time that you have devoted to this, and also just to be clear, I've looked at the 4 amendments. I've looked at them objectively. My officials have looked at them objectively, and there is a spirit to amendments as well. And I know what Deputy Function is trying to do in amendment number 38, and I acknowledge the fact that you're looking for equal treatment, which is something that I'm very conscious of as well. So whether you're a student from Ballahadreen or a student from Bangor, for that matter, they will be treated in equal fashion as far as I'm concerned. And I do know as well that the services and the help provided by Susie is there. So whether they're Brexit related matters or Northern Ireland related matters or Welsh or Scottish or English, they're all treated as priority issues. With respect to amendment number 37, I'll get to amendment number 38, just speak a bit more in a second. I know Deputy Cullinan raised it as well. The purpose of my proposed amendment to section 14 of the bill is to allow the Minister to prescribe classes of persons once a detailed evaluation of factors have been assessed. Subsection 1 gives the Minister the power, where he or she is satisfied to do so, to prescribe a class of person after he has consulted with the HEA, secured the consent of the Minister of Finance, and has considered the policies and principles contained in subsection 2. The policies and principles refer to matters such as whether there are reciprocal arrangements in place with the third country, the development of skills in the economy, the nature and level of the qualifications, available resources, and any other matters that the Minister considers proper having regard to the objective of enabling persons to access higher education. The use of the word may in section 14A(1) is the appropriate word in this particular context. Using the obligatory word shall would require the Minister to prescribe every third country which reached the same threshold provided for in the legislation. Given the cost increasing nature of any decision to prescribe a new class of person, it would be inappropriate for the Minister to be required to prescribe this in this way. It would also mean that the Oireachtas would not have a clear line of sight over the potential implications of what we are enacting and to which countries it could apply. Finally, there would be a clear conflict between the obligatory term shall and the governing policies and principles which the legislator is using to curb the Minister's powers. The final decision must be in our interest as well, as the class of persons must rest with the Minister of the day. But it is important to point out as well, Camp Corla, discussions are at an advanced stage in relation to the common travel area, a very, very advanced stage, and that will mean that the arrangements that we have today will be the arrangements we'll have post-Brexit and post a decision for a no-Brexit deal or whether there is a deal. So the common travel area will override any of this in that instance. The second amendment that Deputy Function put forward in relation to the operational aspects from processing of applications to payments is delivered by the awarding authorities such as SUSI, which is a business unit of City of Dublin Education Training Board, and it is a memorandum of understanding. It's not underpinned by legislation, it's a service-level agreement. And there is already a provision within the Student Support Act 2011 to outsource certain functions by SUSI. In this regard, the City of Dublin Education Training Board has engaged the services of an outsourced provider called Abtran. This company provides a call centre and document management services for SUSI. Should the need arise, it is possible to increase the resources provided by this company to meet any potential peak in demand. In addition to this, SUSI's staffing model provides a certain degree of flexibility regarding the recruitment of temporary staff to meet peak demands during the grant processing season. Should the need arise, it will be open to SUSI management to reallocate resources to meet its operational needs. I appreciate that the objective of the amendment amendment is to ensure that there are resources which must be in place to deliver very clear messages to all applicants for SUSI supports, and specifically for those seeking to study in the UK or for those UK citizens seeking to study in Ireland. I agree fully with this. I am particularly conscious that any changes in the area of student finance can bring uncertainty. Clearly, I want to avoid that. My department will continue to consult with SUSI to ensure that adequate resources are in place to deal effectively with the level of queries that may arise from students who feel they will be affected by Brexit. As I have stated earlier, the option remains to adjust resources if that is required, and if there's any weakness in regard to the equal treatment of the existing arrangements, we obviously are duty-bound to ensure that that doesn't happen. I would also add that the Government is very committed to clear and precise communications on all aspects of Brexit impacts. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade recently updated its content on Brexit, and more specifically the Common Travel Area. In addition to using its own social media and communications, my department will be updating material on this site on specific education issues as they arise. In seeking to assure the Deputy, I want to communicate very clearly that the Irish students will continue to be eligible for SUSI supports while they study in the UK and in the North, and that the Northern students and UK students will continue to be eligible for SUSI grants while they study in Irish higher education institutions. And once again, just in relation to the spirit of the amendment, I want to assure the Deputy that her intervention is something which I take very, very seriously, and if there's any weakness or shortcomings in relation to that service, I've already spoken to my officials, and if resources are required to ensure that, whether it's helpline or information, that we remain vigilant in that regard. But I'm confident that the services provided by SUSI, they're already doing that. They're providing a very professional service. And I remember, I think it was 2012 when it came in first, there were a lot of complications. We were all in this house and we were trying to figure out how is this going to work. But we're not talking about SUSI as much as we used to do, because they're providing an absolutely excellent service, and I want to acknowledge them for that. Cahirirla, or Cam Corla Bronar, amendment ever a trochas ani agus daihid ag bunchama on chakta burn tam kinche gove an leanunachas igest inye and CTA and CTA into nervishan janta bemid sanach gove and kinche socrihe major lesson blaine nye fees a fiha fees a hen fees a da agus ni vemid arash sanach gove magic sminu cadaveg harlu and blaine shahogin agus and blaine in a yeshan to shijanta marta Bhíon teachta gra tá sé deanta fáinne an bliain ní dé go dtí fiche agus tá mise I gcónaí ag gra agus ag glóir leis mó colacias sa ranneidethes an cinnsethe tá I gceist in é sin agus an cóhaintú idir bhreatain agus éireann ar son an CTA tan cóhaintú sin Harvey táhachta agus táid géirí níos cógra I gcónaí agus tan córa Jera an lína maidir leis an cóhaintú ormul atá I gceist fásta. Faoin lasithe trochas ani, I do welcome the contribution of the Deputy in relation to this, and I want to just acknowledge the fact that while the SUSI scheme is statutory and distinct from the Free Fees Initiative, which is an administrative scheme, the two are inextricably linked and share common eligibility criteria, including residency and nationality. Amendment 39 would have the effect of preserving entitlement to access the Free Fees Initiative with UK residency, continuing to be counted in UK citizens treated similarly to those in other EEA countries, and also including Switzerland in that regard. Amendment 40 would require the Minister to produce a once-off report at the end of this year about the position of UK or Irish students resident in the UK or Northern Ireland regarding the Free Fees Initiative. You did mention that you were thinking on the officials, and in relation to the timing of it, it will be very close to the start of the new year from September, coming at the end of the year. But that being said, That being said, it could be argued that neither amendment to the bill is strictly necessary, as the Free Fees initiative is administrative in nature. I do recognise their overriding objective is to provide long-term clarity for all concerned. Agus Dardi to an Keshin, a couple of Eohan, si cha Shaw, agus Boilum a handers a goal hugged for Honye and Chamonte footed and Tarver Shaw, agus Tamishik, Smuna Foster, Vime, Ibel Farshja, a couple of Eohan, agus Vina Dinya Gra, Casmil, a couple of Muncher, a couple of Tishmare, agus Vishidson, Ara Eganam Shin, Cadaveg Tarloy, Imiman 4, Cadaveg Tarloy, Fia Zahin, August 10, Lianunachas, August Kinche, Harave Tawagta. From the outset, I have made it clear that the Common Travel Area will address many of the concerns in the education sector. This includes the question of SUSI grants, as well as maintaining the current EU fee system for Northern Irish and UK students. Agreement between my department and the Department of Education in the UK on these principles, as well as wider policy issues at other levels of education, has been reached, with the discussions now focusing on framing these within a memorandum of understanding. I would hope that a meeting between the Secretary of State for Education and I will be convened within the next few weeks with a view to signing the MOU. I am also happy to commit to the publication of a report by year end. Neither amendment is contrary to government policy and reflect our desire to maintain the status quo post-Brexit. Therefore, given that the amendments do not conflict with our approach, I do intend proposing acceptance of amendments 39 and 40.